Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue à cette autre édition de Lunch and Learn de Passion Whisky Québec. Je vois déjà qu'il y a plusieurs personnes qui sont connectées. Fantastique. Avant d'introduire notre invité aujourd'hui, juste vous rappeler que vous pouvez, si vous êtes sur YouTube ou sur Facebook, mettre vos questions dans les commentaires. Ça va me faire plaisir de les transmettre à Carl. Et puis qu'on a à peu près aujourd'hui 30 à 40 minutes avec des questions. Donc, on va pouvoir poser à Carl. Donc, sans perdre plus de temps, I'll jump in English and introduce Carl. Thank you very much for your availability, Carl. And I see there's a mistake right there, just in the text. Carl, it's not Carl, it's Carl. Awesome. Okay, good. It starts well. So thank you for your availability, Carl. And yeah, as I mentioned in French, we have 30 or 40 minutes together today talking about Ardnamurchan and the incredible opportunity we have also with the Quebec Whisky Club to have a single cask for the 15 years of the Quebec Whisky Club. So we'll talk about that as well. So for those of you, Carl is responsible for the sales at ADELPHI, ADELPHI, in fact, that include also Ardnamurchan distillery. So we'll talk about that and you explain that. Yeah, again, thank you for joining, and I'll let you introduce yourself a bit more, talking about where you come from. We just discussed a little bit before. You are also a whiskey lover, so let's talk about that as well. And then we'll go through different questions and discussions during the next 30 minutes. So go ahead and introduce yourself for the group.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, my name is Carl Crafts. I'm sales executive for Ardnamurchan Distillery and ADELPHI Selection. As per the typo, if you prefer to refer to me as La Voiture, would I be right in saying that would be the car, and we can do that instead of Carl? That's fine. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and happy to be connected with you all in sort of this opportunity with regards to the single cask and your 15th anniversary, correct?
Yeah, the Quebec Whisky Club, exactly.
Yeah. So really thrilled to be, connected to that. And just here to give you a little bit more information about what we do at the distillery, the history, which is tied to ADELPHI. So for those that are or are not aware to ADELPHI, I can sort of make that link for you. Yeah. And yeah, we're an independent team, and as such, we get to have some fun. So we're pretty open books. So I think I heard you mention in French, if you have questions and want to pop them into the chat, if I can answer it, I will. I'm very happy to address anything, you might be interested in. And if I can't answer it, I'm happy to get that information after the fact and, get it to you after the chat itself. Yeah, Eric, you're right. I'm a whiskey geek myself. I've worked in alcohol my whole career, and that's sort of jumped from beer to distribution, importation. I worked at a restaurant and bar and bought spirits there, so kind of all the way through the supply chain. And I am American, so hail from the northeastern United States, and now live in Edinburgh, live in Scotland, and work for
Where were you in U.S.? You said northeast.
Yeah, New Hampshire. So I had a very small border there with Quebec. So I've been a few times, had some fun in Montreal. Really loved Quebec City. So yeah,
awesome.
Even
so
work.
If you come back sometimes, yeah, in Quebec for sure.
Yeah,
it will be nice to have you for a tasting.
Would love that.
Quebec Whisky Club or with other groups as well. So it can be interesting then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was thinking there's not a big accent in
yeah. No, I'm still working on picking up the Scottish brogue so that I don't disappoint people from here on out on tastings. But a little ways to go. So yeah. So
what brought you to work with ADELPHI then?
Yeah, pretty lucky, honestly. It's an amazing company. I was fortunate to work with them in my previous role. So I was actually a trade specialist for the Scottish government, which is a bit of a wild role, but more or less my job was to match Scottish alcohol producers with potential importers, or at least give them guidance on the North American market. So sort of that past that I had with working throughout the supply chain kind of came to help in that regard. And yeah, I was working with ADELPHI and Ardnamurchan, actually directly with regards to Quebec, and sort of making in their spread to North America and into Canada, and finding agents for the various provinces. So was connected that way, and it all kind of fell into place as they were growing. I told them that I'd be interested in joining, and that was that. So
awesome. Yeah. And there are so many questions I have in mind, but maybe we can start with the distillery and the reason why there's a distillery now in that ADELPHI company.
Sure.
ADELPHI is a independent bottler, basically.
Precisely.
And what makes it change to become also a producer?
Right. Yeah. So to answer that, I mean, I'll give you the very quick history of ADELPHI, because it does feed right in. So ADELPHI as a company has actually existed since 1826. So if you're interested in history and want to get in touch with me after the fact, we can do that. But fundamentally, we're in our 30th year as an independent bottler. So since 1993, we've been bottling predominantly single cask strength spirits, not almost entirely, but the vast majority single malt Scotch, and everything kind of qualitatively driven. So non-chill filtered, no added color, and looking for only the highest quality casks in terms of the selection process. So that much of it has very much trickled through to Ardnamurchan. The birth of Ardnamurchan basically came about in the late aughts, when our managing director, Alex Bruce, effectively, he was a bit prescient, maybe a couple of years ahead of some others, and basically realized that demand was going through the roof, was starting to go through the roof. And as a result, distilleries were starting to hang on to their stock. Yeah. So the options were effectively buy as much as you possibly could then, and let it just whittle it down until your company dissolves, or create your own source of liquid. Both amazing that we have a distillery, but also to support ADELPHI. So in 2013, Ardnamurchan was launched. The project was launched. So our first distillate was 2014. So we have 9-year-old single malt Scotch in cask. So in terms of age, while we're still, kind of getting there in terms of being well known, we would say we're kind of on the older end of the new distilleries. We're not quite Kilchoman, who launched in 2005, but we have a few years on some of the other new guys, Lindor's, Rasse, some of the others that are in the mix. So yeah, that's effectively how that happened, and now we're going on double digits, which is really obviously an exciting time for a single malt distillery.
Yeah, and the group and the whiskey lovers we have in the group here, we all know that the age is not all. I mean, they are pretty nice young products, 5,
exactly.
6, 7 years, that are awesome, and so we had chance for some of us to get some Ardnamurchan products also from different sources, different area, from traveling and from having friends in other provinces as well, and directly in SAQ as well. There's a new cask, a new bottle coming in, I think, pretty soon in the next few days.
Yeah, indeed.
But we'll talk about the single cask we're getting to have pretty soon. So thank you for the history. We understand where it came from, but the question I have too is, when you create a new distillery, let's say there are some that are really remote, but most of the time the finance and accounting guy decided, okay, we have to place that distillery close to our suppliers and close to markets, decrease the cost and everything. So why having a distillery so remote on Ardnamurchan Peninsula, so with small roads and
yeah.
decision.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think, if you're okay with it, maybe I'll go quickly through a few photos, a few slides.
Yeah, go ahead.
And feel free to butt in with questions. But I think, this is a good opportunity in terms of illustrating just how far we are from everything. Can you see that all right?
Yeah, we are there.
Cool. So I'll be quick with this because I know, we don't have a ton of time, but I think this is important. So this is our distillery. There are actually two more distilleries right here. If you can see my cursor kind of across the road from those four on the left. So we have 6 warehouses now.
Okay.
And this
everything is aged on site.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we do all of our maturation on site at the distillery. We bottle because we already had a bottling facility for ADELPHI, and it's also, in terms of the frequency of bottling, it wouldn't make any sense to have a bottling site as remote as this and have trucks coming, every single day. Yeah. So we ship when we're ready to do a batch or bottling. We ship to the ADELPHI bottling site and bottle there, which is in Fife, across the bridge from Edinburgh.
Okay.
So the Ardnamurchan distillery, this body of water is Loch Soonert, which is a coastal loch that runs out to the Sound of Mull and then to the Atlantic. Mm-hmm. So you can actually see, here's a little map. This is the peninsula. So we're quite far from Glasgow and Edinburgh down here. This is Speyside up here. So it's a real haul. The last 25, 30 miles are single track road. So it takes some doing to get here, but it is an incredibly beautiful, remote part of Scotland. Mm. Just to give some context, this is the Ardnamurchan Lighthouse, which is at the end of our road. So that is the westernmost point of all of Britain. So you don't get that much farther away unless you're in the Outer Hebrides, the islands off the coast there.
Yeah.
That's a video, but maybe we'll skip that for now. And I think maybe if you're okay with it, this would be a good opportunity to touch on what we do because we built a distillery in this really beautiful place.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the way we like to put it is we lead with whiskey. We always have, even in ADELPHI, and we're really proud of what Ardnamurchan is producing. So we're not looking to greenwash people. We're not going to lead with sustainability, but we would also say that if you build a distillery in 2013 in the 21st century, I think there's an obligation to have sustainability and the environment that you're building it in mind. So that's kind of how we operate. So we've gone to a number of different, gone to lengths in a number of different ways to achieve that. And I'll be quick on these, but I think they are important. So I think it's 168 solar panels. That's them getting installed. So that's just a fraction of them. Mm-hmm. And then we also have, so our source water as a stream coming off of this hill.
Okay.
Between solar and hydroelectric, we could go off grid on the peninsula. So we produce most days more energy than we use. That river is also providing the production water, the cooling water for the steam that heats the stills there.
Okay.
Quickly on barley, because this is something people don't touch on enough. We use 100% Scottish barley, and then almost 70% of that is on our company fields that are adjacent to the ADELPHI site in Fife. So you can't grow barley in Ardnamurchan. It's a big piece of volcanic rock, not the most arable land, but we do grow about 2/3 of the barley that we use in production. That's just SQC is just the quality of the barley. And then a couple quick points. There's no oil on site whatsoever, which is very unusual. We don't even have a backup generator. Okay. So we have a biomass boiler renewable wood chip from 2 miles down the road that's brought in by a guy named Huey on a tractor that fuels the whole site. So we're really committed to doing everything we can, both on the front end. Here's an example on the back end of using reed beds to get the effluent back into nature in a safe and sustainable way. The same with the physical, the pot ale, the spent grain, going to Ardnamurchan livestock.
Okay.
So that's a chunk about our sustainability, which is an important part of how we produce whiskey. In terms of production, because obviously we're here about the single cask.
Yeah.
But if you want to jump in, feel free. I can pause if you want.
No, that's good. I mean, go ahead with a few more things, and I'm having some questions in my mind.
Okay, cool.
After.
So basically, we produce our core expression, our AD single malt, is a representation of a year in the distillery. So we do about 6 months of unpeated distillate and 6 months of peated distillate. And then that is the same as our core bottling, which is half peated, half unpeated. The cask that you all have selected is of course, it's a single cask, so there's only one type of distillate in there, and that is peated. So that is a fully peated distillate.
We can expect to have it more peated than your regular bottling, because you use half unpeated and half peated in your regular bottling. Am I right?
Precisely. Yeah. So
it will be more peated than what we get in SAQ or what we get usually.
Yeah. So the cask strength is a more peated bottling of ours. That's about 95% peated. So that's actually reasonably close to your barrel. So if any of you have had the cask strength or are due to maybe try to pick it up, that would be at least close. But yes, we use Highland peat, and we peat to 30 parts per million. So even our heavily peated, or even our fully peated distillate, I should say, isn't as peaty as the likes of some of the big guys on Islay. We're not trying to be an Islay brand. We're trying to make an Ardnamurchan single malt. And we want other aspects to shine through. We want there to be fruit. We want there to be salinity. And that goes for both the peated and the unpeated distillate.
And we saw from the cask, the comments that Patrick and André wrote about the cask, the selected cask, that there were these layers of other taste than just smoke, and that's, I think, what people will really appreciate as well. And with the ABV also, it's really nice. So just talking about that, when you say cask strength, it's not bottled right now, but I understand that you expect to have that around 58 when we bottle this cask 702. What's the ABV when you put the whiskey in there? Is it 64 or?
You mean the fill strength?
Sorry?
The strength when it's filled into the cask.
Yeah,
63.5, industry standard 63.5. Give or take a tenth, but it's right about there. So this is just a little shot of the actual cask that I thought I'd include. And I'll stop sharing from there. But it will be. Let me just get out of there and get back to our chat here. Yeah, so it'll depend a little bit on how active that cask was. We haven't gauged it yet, but it's safe to assume it'll be in the 57, 58, 59, 60 realm. That all depends cask to cask. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And so it's, as you mentioned, it's been aged in your warehouse on site right now.
Yep.
And talk about maybe a little bit more about this cask. It's you mentioned that it's a bourbon cask.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Cask? Yeah. So we predominantly we toy with all sorts of casks. We have some fun experiments that make their way, around the UK, around the globe as well. but the vast majority of what we have maturing is bourbon and sherry. This is a standard bourbon barrel. We source at this point for the last 7 years all of our bourbon barrels from Old Forester. Okay. So we have a direct relationship with Brown-Forman, with the ownership there. That came about basically from experimentation. So we still have casks from all the usual suspects: Jim Beam, Woodford, Elijah Craig, you name it. But the combination of consistency and quality and how it was interacting with our spirit, we were really, really happy about, and we were fortunate to be able to sort of lock that in so that we have consistent supply of some really, really nice casks. So this is one of those. American Standard Barrel, 2017. I can tell you from experience, one of the fun parts of what we do, the cool thing, we have a very small team. The sales team is 6 people, including the sales director. And unlike most companies where you have a master blender, we do have, as I mentioned, a managing director, and he would ultimately get final say, but we're all involved in the blending process. So we all get to taste the things that go into any bottling that gets put out, and we all share the task of pulling samples. I pulled this sample myself from the warehouse for you guys, so I can tell you
it's a bad job to do.
It's a rough one. It's a rough one. The quality control aspect is really onerous. It's really tough. But I can tell you that we've pulled a few 2017 peatids just for our own. We obviously have to keep track of how things are going and the different vintages and in the different warehouses and how they're aging. And they're doing just fine. We're really happy with them. I think, I mentioned the salinity in our spirit, and we're not, part of the fun of whiskey is the magic and the mystery. It's not like we're dosing kosher salt into our casks, but there's something about, how we're making whiskey, the water that we're using to bring it from the 70 or so percent that it comes off the still to 63.5. That's water that runs through the peat bogs behind the distillery. So that's all natural water. It sees a UV filter, and that's about it. So there is definite peat and fun, wild salinity in that water. I mean, the water on the peninsula, tap water, pours like tan. It's pretty incredible. Okay. So it's a unique thing, and when you mix that with peated malt, it just has this beautiful combination. Especially in a bourbon barrel, you have that characteristic bourbon barrel sweetness, that sort of vanilla custard thing, some bright nectar fruit. But then with our distillate, I tend to find, at least I'll speak for myself because it's all subjective, isn't it? I find, in fact, I poured a little bit of a different 2017 peated bourbon barrel, not yours, but one that I happen to have in my cabinet behind me there. And it has that beautiful, like I said, that bourbon barrel, that custard thing going on, but we get like a salted preserved lemon thing, especially on the peated distillate in bourbon, that I just adore. It's really a really glorious thing. It mixes really well with the smoke, and I would say too, with the fact that it's Highland smoke, it has that earthiness. It's more heathery than the iodine kick that you get from an Isla. It's a different beast. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's different. And in fact, people are just putting comments on the chat. And
cool. I was on private chat. I missed all of these. Oh my word.
Yeah, no problem. So people are saying that the single cask that is coming to SAQ is coming probably tomorrow. So a new product available, but it's going to be different, as you mentioned, because first the price. It's incredible that the price that we have for our single cask is lower than what will be at the SAQ.
Yeah.
So this is awesome for that specific product. It's a unique product for the 15 years of the club, and it's even less expensive than the regular one at the SAQ. So
Yeah,
that's a really good opportunity. And some questions here about the barley. You talked about that a bit, and all the barley is local, as you mentioned, in Scotland. So
it's all Scottish. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned, we're not, especially with the phrasing "local barley." I'll go ahead and bite on the bait. So we're not Springbank, and it's just not viable to grow barley on Ardnamurchan. It'd be, Springbank is, I think, the only distillery left that's doing the full thing, right? From grain to glass, as people like to say these days. But yeah, it is all Scottish. And while Fife, where our offices and where our barley farms are, is about a 3-hour drive from Ardnamurchan, we do run the farms ourselves, so it is owned by us and operated by us. So it's about as much control across about, like I said, just shy of 70% of the barley used in annual production. And that's, we've been hitting close to 400,000 liters per annum for the last 5 or 6 years, maybe with a slight blip for COVID. So, we're small if you compare to Glenfiddich, who I think is at 25, 26 million now. But we're also we're not tiny. I mean, there are some names that are out there that people know that actually have smaller distilleries than us. So we have a good amount of whiskey that we get to play with.
Awesome. And a question about cask as well. Are you thinking about, and you mentioned that you have some other cask.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give us some ideas of what's in the warehouse right now? So
I see that
for Sauterne, Moscatel, red wine, Manzanilla, or what's tequila, mezcal, Calvados, like Killiman?
Yeah, we can definitely answer that. So we don't like red wine, and I'm saying that to be intentionally aggressive. That's not to say that there aren't. We will probably have red wine casks at some point in the future, and obviously there are some amazing red wine matured or finished scotches out there. I also think there are some ones where you lose the distillate and the character of the distillery really quickly with red wine. And I think it can be hard to track. I think it can go from, this is tasting fine, to, this tastes only like cask. So we're wary of it. So we haven't invested heavily in that side of things just yet. The rest of those, by and large, yes. So Sauterne, absolutely. We have a limited release with a Grand Cru Champagne house. So technically that would be Chardonnay casks. But it's a champagne house. That's the Paul and Law release. We have all manner of sherry. So we get, not only do we work with, we work with 2 bodegas in Jerez, in the home of sherry in southern Spain. So one is Miguel Martin, who is sort of the godfather of sherry matured Scotch whiskey. So he provides casks for the likes of Macallan, Springbank, Glenfarclas, Glendronach, your big famous sherry matured scotches. So we're very lucky to have a relationship with him as well. So we get predominantly Oloroso from him, but we get a smattering of Amontillado, Manzanilla as well. We also work with a family bodega called Jimenez Spinola. They work exclusively with Pedro Jimenez grapes, PX. So they also, for those of you that are just drinking nerds, if you see, they make a PX table wine. So not just the kind of usual sticky sweet PX sherry, which is glorious, don't get me wrong. But if you like tasty wine and you see a Jimenez Spinola bottle of PX table wine, you should buy it. Sorry, Martha. I see you're absolutely right. I meant for full production, but You're absolutely right. And I know Springbank isn't full production on their local barley either. But in terms of malting and all of that, but no, entirely fair. Martha caught me on the on that. But yeah, we do have mezcal casks. I'll go ahead and say they're tasting pretty damn good. So yep, those are in the works. What else? Yeah, port's in there. Yeah, we do.
Trying. You're definitely trying to get some other tastes and probably put that together in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we do also have quite a decent amount of rum casks as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So.
So we talked about the location, the distillery, and maybe some questions that I still have about your distillery and say equipment or stills and other things. Is there anything special that you do in the distillation process? I mean, the temperature, the length of distillation, or mash, or anything special that also you try different stuff, or
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's see. I mean, there's a number of different things. So in terms of fermentation, I guess we'll start at the beginning. So we use different strains of barley. We're currently using Laureate. On the last peated run, we were using Sassy. Okay. So that in part comes down largely to crop rotation. Crops will go through a cycle in terms of their yield and of their efficiency. Yeah. So that's really just a natural part of the agricultural process. But we do use different varieties of barley. We've used Concerto, a bunch of different things. We also do about 3 weeks a year of Golden Promise, which is mostly because Golden Promise makes really, really delicious products, but it's also really horrendous yield, and it's expensive. So, you do have to balance the commercial side of things. If we did 52 weeks of Golden Promise, Ardnamurchan would be a lot more expensive, and we want to have a whiskey that people can access at a decent rate. But it's a fun experiment for us.
So is the idea to keep these in some cask apart, and then try to find different tastes that you have from different barleys, or you mix that together just to get a different distillate? And
yeah, well, with the Golden Promise run, that's certainly kept separate as of now. That's not to say that we wouldn't put it into a batch release, whether it's the core expression or the cask strength or something comparable. But by and large, we're looking to create, potentially a Golden Promise release or something. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but they're set apart in terms of how we track them. The others is just kind of, that's the barley that we have, and we work it all in for blending. In terms of washbacks, we have 7 washbacks. 4 are wood, 3 are stainless. Okay. So that does have a little bit of, that gives us something to play with as well in terms of slightly different fermentation characteristics. Yeah. Distillation-wise, probably the biggest thing would be we have a variety. We do kind of multiple fermentation times. So prior to distillation. Honestly, it's largely dependent on the weekend. So the things that are in washback over the weekend, when our operations team, our distillery team gets a well-earned break, will ferment for slightly longer than something mashed in on Monday, for example. Yeah. So that's a factor as well. Yeah. And then in the distillation, it's a 10,000 liter wash still, and then down to a 6,000 liter spirit still. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing we do probably would be we take a really slow middle cut for the hearts. Okay. So we crank that thing way down to to try to maximize that part of the process. And we do have shell and tube, not worm tub, but interestingly, they are outside. I don't know. I can't tell you offhand what that necessarily does, but it's a bit unusual. That's what I got. Trying to think of any other tidbits from the distillation process.
Yeah, well, that's nice sharing that with us for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, time flies already. Almost 40 minutes. I will ask people there if you have other questions. I'm just going through quickly the comments. It's time to add your questions if you have. Nothing else right now. So awesome. So yeah, so there, just for your information, for you, Carl, and for other people on the call, there are few bottles remaining only in the cask. We are going to order. So few dozens bottle only. I think probably right now around 20-25 bottles. So really quickly, people on the call, or if you look at that video later today, go on the command passionwhiskyquebec.com and grab your bottle quickly. There will be no more after that.
Yeah, I would add just a credit to Passion Whiskey. It's not, this is a pretty cool, I hesitate to say this because I don't like to talk ourselves up, but this is a pretty cool opportunity. And I know different markets are always different, but we've been lucky that the reputation that we've had with ADELPHI, we've also earned through Ardnamurchan. So demand for this sort of bottling is pretty high. I'll go ahead and say it. I mean, when we release stuff in the UK market, even small batch, let alone single cask stuff, I mean, it's pretty much gone instantly. So this is not to be too salesy about it, but this is a cool thing for you to be able to check out. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a really interesting, tasty distillate to have a single cask of.
Yeah, no, we know it's a lot for us to have that, and I see Martha is on the call, so it's a big part of her in there to be able to have that cask. So thank you, Martha, for that. So no more questions. Just have David saying that he just bought a full case of American. That's good. So thank you again for your time, Carl. Really appreciate it. Maybe we'll have other opportunities when we get these bottles, maybe to have an online tasting. I'm sure Patrick and André from the club will probably talk to you later about that, and have that maybe remotely, or if you come here in North America, come stop by Quebec and Montreal, because you told me that you speak French a little bit.
Petit peu.
So no. There's the opportunity to practice for the tasting in French in Quebec.
Yeah, we would love to get out there. It's something where I can't commit to it just yet, but we're hoping that 2024 we can carve out some time to get to Quebec. I think that'd be really good. And Martha has been as you mentioned, she's been a tremendous advocate and supporter of ours, and the whole team at Connection and Affiliate and Noble Estates. So we're keen to get out there, and I'm also, I'm biased. I have a personal fondness for Quebec, so I'd love to visit and do that. But yeah, hopefully soon. If not 2024, without a doubt, the year after. I think it's definitely the next 24 months. We'll be there. Love to shake hands and meet everyone on the call and everyone in the club. That's what it's all about. It's all about the people. So
awesome. Thank you. And then in the chat, there are many thank you for your time from many people there. And
yeah, cool. Merci beaucoup.
One thing from Martha again. Martha, I think that there will be a special label for the club on the bottle, so it's really identify as this special release bottle. So that's
without a doubt.
Awesome. So thank you for your time again.
Thank you
for the next steps and confirming the this order with you. And talk to you later then, maybe in next few months when we get the bottle. Thanks.
Sounds great. Yeah, merci beaucoup.
Merci à toi. Au revoir.
Au revoir.